You should absolutely always check the weather before you head out on the water. This crew's regretting it, as they went out in the water and Tropical Storm Debbie has caught them off guard, somehow, off the coast of Fort Myers, and they needed a little bit of a hand from the Coast Guard. Now, Tropical Storm Debbie is now gone, but many of us are still dealing with the ramifications from the storm. We'll talk about that and many other things in this week's episode of Boating News of the Week. Our first story to make the boating news this week is going to take us over to New Zealand and the Mungawhai Bar. The Mungawhai Bar is a popular surf destination and also a popular boating spot as well, as there happens to be a boat ramp very near here, meaning it's giving boaters easy access to launch their boat, cross the bar, and get out into the open ocean for fishing. As we can see here though, some days it is not recommended to cross the bar, as we just saw our boat start to head out and then turn around quickly. But one of the problems here is this boater's not following a couple simple rules. One, this is his second attempt out, and he is crossing right over the bar in some of the shallowest areas, but that also puts him heading straight out toward the surfer lineup that you can see off in the distance. Here he's going over the shallowest part of the bar and really should be to the far left of our screen, staying in the deeper channel. But right here he is full on motoring out into some massive waves, and you can see the surfers just off in the distance. And right here, they're about to get clobbered by a wave. Now fortunately, he comes down, misses the surfers, and quickly has to turn around again. But some of the things that point to the obvious here is this is probably a tourist. As one, none of the locals are going out on a day like this. It is just not a good day to go out there and try and cross the bar. Two, no local would be pointing straight out into the surf lineup as they went out. Now here in his third attempt, he's actually over in the boating channel, but again, he's timed the sets wrong as he's going out. As you can see them starting to stack up. Now at least he's in the channel this time, but he's committed at this point. Cap leans into the throttle and decides he's gonna go ahead, and this is it. He's making his attempt, and man, he winds up with a wild ride. As we can see, he's about to stack into this next wave, which is absolutely massive. Sends it, but this is just a reminder to you guys, if you're going somewhere new, do your research before you go. The last thing you want to do is get out there on the water and put yourself in danger or others, as we saw in this situation. Our next story to make the boating news this week is going to take us up to Maine, where this was the scene just a little over a week ago when several crews successfully recovered a vehicle that happened to be swept down the Moosam River after the vehicle went into the water off of a boat launch near Kennebunk. Local authorities claim that the vehicle was being used by a gentleman who decided to go fishing late in the afternoon. He loaded his fishing gear into the vehicle and drove down to the local boat ramp in Kennebunk, where he decided he was going to back down the ramp and start to unload his fishing gear so he could carry it down to the docks. But all of a sudden, after the gentleman got out of the car, he quickly realized he messed up and the vehicle was not in park and wound up rolling down the boat ramp and into the water. The vehicle did wind up drifting a few hundred yards down the river, but local crews were eventually able to pull it out with no injuries reported, as nobody was in the car at the time of the incident. Our next story to make the boating news this week is going to take us over to Serbia, where this was the scene this past week, as the Serbian government has began a large-scale salvage project to try and raise and clear over 200 German wartime vessels that were scuttled at the end of World War II in the Danube River. Currently, contractors have brought the first dozen or so armed German patrol boats to the surface. These vessels have been sitting in the Danube River since the end of World War II, wreaking havoc since then. In fact, they were actually scuttled in a manner to try and stop the Russian forces from being able to bring their vessels down the Danube, but even now today, larger vessels have to take care in certain sections of the river to try and avoid these boats. Currently, the Serbian government is in phase 1 of their plan, which will allow them to remove 21 of these vessels from the water. A few weeks after that, they plan to begin phase 2, which will require them removing another 80 vessels from the water. Our next story to make the boating news this week is going to bring us back over to the US, where we're going to talk about Tropical Storm Debbie. Yes, I realize this happened over a week ago, but it is still affecting boaters to this day, as many areas received an extreme amount of rainfall, causing many waterways, lakes and rivers, and even coastal areas to have water rise and flooding occur. These images come from the Atlantic Intercoastal Waterway in South Carolina, where they've seen an extreme water rise, flooding homes and businesses and several other things along the waterway. So even though Tropical Storm Debbie passed well over a week ago now, you have to remember that sometimes the worst of it comes after the fact, which is what we're experiencing right now, as I'm about to show you, as everything, boat lifts, docks, jet ski lifts, are all completely underwater. To give you an example, this is a 3-tier dock, and this is the highest of the 3 tiers. And here you can see stairs going down,
to one of the lower levels, completely underwater. Boat lift, completely underwater. Obviously, you can tell it's an umbrella stand that's underwater. Docks, right now, if I was to walk down and stand on them, probably 3 to 4 foot, completely underwater. Here you can see the pilings where boats would typically dock on the face dock, and is down. Lots of people experiencing flooding. In fact, here, the Coast Guard has issued a mandatory no-wake zone, and for the most part, people are following it, but we're still seeing a lot of commercial and larger vessels come rolling through, which is just surprising. You know, I mean, this is a long stretch of a no-wake zone. I would definitely imagine these vessels would make better time going offshore, but some are not so blessed, as there's many other people in our areas that are experiencing flooding in their homes. As again, this water level, probably 3 to 4 foot above the dock, and it's normally 3 foot below the dock, which means we are at a 6 to 7 foot rise, and we're not even at high tide today yet. Today will be the highest water level we've seen.
Thanks for watching, crew. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Boating News of the Week. If you ever see anything crazy happening out on your waterways, be sure to hit us up on Facebook or Instagram and let us know, and you might see your stories over here, just like Pam Alexander and Picasso West did this week. And if you guys haven't already, go ahead and drop an anchor on the subscribe button.